welcome to Movie RX, where I prescribe entertainment one movie at a time. I am your host, Dr. Benjamin, Ph.D. If you ask my producer what the Ph.D. is for, she would say pretty huge dork.
Accurate.
I have the producer on again today for the next movie that I'm to take a look at here. Today we're going to look at What If, the 2013 film starring Daniel Radcliffe and Zoe Kazan, directed by Michael Dowse. I don't know of much else that man has done. It says that he did Goon and It's All Gone Pete Tong. I don't know anything about either. Well, I know that Goon is a good hockey movie.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for this movie, and I probably on Netflix or something, I don't know, but I just thought it was hilarious, so I had to watch it, and I've watched it quite a few times since.
Yeah, I like this movie. I mean, of course, anything with Adam Driver is gonna kind of reel me in a little bit. Because he could step on my throat, and yeah,
he's gonna come after you like he did with, what's his bucket?
Right. I'm just gonna go ahead and give a brief description of this movie. I'm gonna take it right off of IMDb. The description given by IMDb is Wallace, who is burned out from a string of failed relationships, forms an instant bond with Chantry, who lives with her longtime boyfriend. Together, they puzzle out what it means if your best friend is also the love of your life. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Except that I think they kind of left out a little bit of the angst in it.
Yeah, one of the other ones I saw was like, what if you meet the right person at the wrong time?
That's a good one. That I think that would be a really good short description for this movie. Harry Potter meeting the love of his life at the wrong time. Yeah.
Don't tell Ginny.
First, I guess I kind of want to get what you think of this movie. Is there just kind of an overarching message for this movie? There's just this new kind of movie that is being made now, and it's like millennials and Gen Z are making movies that all have this same random theme to it. Like it's all about the randomness and how outworldly goofy can you be with your characters. And that seems to be kind of how this movie feels as it's playing out, but I could also be wrong. But I mean, what do you think?
I think they take touchy relationships in general, like touchy different subjects that can happen in any kind of relationship, but they throw in that funny, goofy, whatever to lighten the mood. So it, like, this movie has some serious relationship issues in it, but it's a funny movie. Right.
I mean, I don't think one of the neat things about Daniel Radcliffe is, I mean, he made a lifetime's worth of money in his adolescent years doing the Harry Potter franchise. And
absolutely.
Like, I mean, just income upon income upon income, and God only knows how much he's gotten for, likeness rights and stuff like that off of all of that. And he probably has no worries for money at all, like for eternity. And because of that, I think that one thing that is really beneficial for him is that he can now kind of just do whatever he wants. And this feels like a movie that would just be fun to be in. And I think that's kind of why he picked it. In his adult life, he seems to be picking those really fun, goofy roles.
The only one that comes to mind, as in, obviously, he's choosing weird ones that he wants to do, is Swiss Army Man. Like,
that is
I watched that
movie
once, and I'm just like, what just happened to me?
I'm pretty sure that the one time I saw it is the one time I've seen it. And
yep.
I don't think I've seen it since then. Because yes, it is goofy as shit, and I don't know, maybe I'll revisit that movie. Especially because there is a lot of room for talking about mental health in that movie.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Daniel Radcliffe, of course, always delivers, and it's funny because I think it's almost because he's playing himself in everything that he does, because he is just he is very consistently the awkward kid, but somehow becomes the focus.
Yeah.
This is definitely that movie. He starts off, he's, not really pining over, a past relationship, one that's been ended for over a year. He comes out into the world again and goes to a party where he meets this girl, Chantry, who is his best friend's cousin.
College roommate.
Yeah.
Well, I guess probably best friend because he doesn't get out much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he says at the table, right after our favorite line in the movie, he says that Wallace is his best friend. And so for him, like, it's weird because he's like his brother and
right.
Who's trying to date his cousin. And so he's like, I don't like it because it's weird.
I like how you put that in like a very PG description of what he said.
Oh yeah. His nachos.
Oh no, it was like the wanting to like date his cousin and stuff like that. He definitely had some choice other words.
Yes he did. Do you think that there's like an overarching like message to this? Because I mean, I didn't really feel a moral of the story was made in this movie. Of course, I mean, it doesn't really seem to be with that, that almost indie millennial Gen Z movie type way. The moral of the story is not really a thing that they like to do, because that's just too after school specialish.
I mean, I kind of picked up on one. It was another really good Alan quote that he says, all this love shit's complicated. And that's good, because if it's too simple, you've got no reason to try. And if you've got no reason to try, you don't. And so many times, like, you get into this mode in a relationship where you're like, okay, well, we're just together, and then you start doing your own things, and which I mean is good. Do your own things, but you still have to feed that relationship. And a lot of times people stop.
Right. And if we unpack that for a second, if it's too boring, you don't try. How did that go again?
If it's too simple, you've got no reason to try. And if you've got no reason to try, you don't.
If it's too simple, you've got no reason to try. Now, I mean, and I mean, I can kind of understand that. Like, I mean, how many couples have you known in your life? And I mean, some people can even look at their parents the same way, and say they have a simple life. They know everything about each other. Their lives are so connected that they don't even have to ask each other how they were at work anymore. All they have to do is see them walk up to the house and they know, and things like that. And when life gets so predictable like that, it could be so simple that it's comfortable and it's very easy to just leave it that way.
Well, see, and I take that as like, you see those relationships like once they get married, or once they know that like that person's here to stay, they're like, well, I don't have to take them out on dates anymore. I don't have to listen to them when they talk. Like,
right.
Well, I don't have to go out of my way to spend time with them. Right.
And that's kind of what I'm saying, is that it's like, you don't have to impress them anymore. You don't have to,
right.
Because you just know it's probably something that's more common than anybody really likes to admit. But, there's even been times where, where you've had to tell me, hey, I feel like our life is getting too routine. can we go on a date this week or something like that? And I mean, that's perfectly reasonable, like, I mean,
Well,
it's not you asshole, you're not doing well enough, but if it's so simple that you don't have to try, you're not going to. But if you want to make sure that there's still something new and that there's still a reason to be interested.
I don't even think it has to be like new. Like when I tell you about, and when I tell you about that, it's like, okay, I need some you and me time, like engaging and like talking, and like it doesn't even have to be new stuff. It can just be like, well, we talk about movies, we talk about music, we talk about all kinds of nerdy stuff, and like I love those conversations. Like we used to go on long drives and do nothing but just BS about whatever weird, brainwave my mind kept jumping to.
High 15s.
I was very tired that night, thank you. And a very tired and sleep deprived Jen means really weird conversation.
Yes, it does.
And really giggly Jen.
Yes. One would almost think inebriated.
Oh yeah. It can definitely get that way.
But I do agree. I think that that's something that I think Adam Driver pretty much nails it on the head, that it's just kind of another way of saying that love isn't enough.
Yeah, you have to put in that effort. And honestly, like we kind of had a conversation like this where girls, I think, notice that stuff more because like growing up, we are like bombarded with all these, Prince Charming and the guys has to do this, and we get unrealistic expectations.
Right.
And guys, I feel they don't get that as much. So like we are on two completely different levels. And unless you can sit there and say, hey, I need this, like I need time with you, like don't blow it out of proportion. Like you don't need a horse and buggy and carriage or whatever, but like just one-on-one time where there's like no phones, no TV, like you guys are actually talking and engaging and spending that quality time.
That's kind of a stark contrast from like more towards the beginning of the movie. It's just after Wallace and Chantry movie like meet each other. They end up running into each other at a movie theater where they went to go see Princess Bride, and both of them ended up going to the movie by themselves. Daniel Radcliffe went to the movie by himself because he's Daniel Radcliffe, and
he
went to a movie by himself. Yeah. But Chantry ended up being at that movie because her boyfriend didn't show up. So they both exit the movie theater. They see each other, and then he offers to walk her home. And while they're walking, he talks about how it doesn't matter because it's a fairy tale, and love makes you a worse person. His quote in the movie was something to the effect of, in fairy tales, love inspires you to be noble and courageous, but in real life, love is just an all-purpose excuse for selfish behavior. You can lie and cheat and hurt people, and it's okay because you're in love. And I feel like that at times it can be used almost as a way to hide, kids that are in, high school or just getting out of high school or whatever. A lot of the times they will throw this at their parents like it's a shield to protect them. Oh, well, never mind that my kid broke curfew and, did this thing and whatever, never mind any of that because they're in love. That excuses all, and everything like that. And he's right. Sometimes it's used as though it's supposed to, forgive everything. Sometimes it does, like when you figure out that love is that a love that you have found is greater than one that you thought you had. Is that valid? Like,
yeah. And like, I guess with that quote, the part of it that like kind of caught my attention the most was the love is just an all-purpose excuse for selfish behavior.
Right.
Like, how many times do people get into a relationship and one person really feeds the other person's ego and makes them feel great, but they don't necessarily return that?
And that's kind of in contrast to what Adam Driver says later in the movie.
Right.
But of course, at the same time, later in the movie, the quote that you get from Adam Driver, I'm pretty sure that was in opposition to Wallace, like they were fighting at the time.
They're always fighting.
But and the fact that when he finds him, he's day drinking, and Adam Driver is giving nasty commentary to the elderly playing, shuffleboard or whatever.
Yes,
that's just too funny.
He is harassing elderly people.
It's so great. Wallace and Chantry are, they're starting to get to know each other, and right after they met, she made a point to give him her phone number, but she also made a point to tell him that she had a boyfriend.
Yes. She kind of like slipped it in there, but you could tell she was slipping it in there on purpose, because as she was writing down her phone number, she's like, yeah, my boyfriend will probably be worried about me, like wondering where I've been so late.
Yeah. And again, it's that's responsible.
Yes.
Go Chantry.
Yes.
But then she invites Wallace over to have dinner with her and her boyfriend, whose name is Ben. And he just flat out asks him, what's your deal? Like, are you
trying to sleep with her?
Are you trying to get in my girlfriend's pants? And he's like, no, I'm cool with just being friends or whatever. And so, that was really kind of the first time that was faced. And
yes.
First off, that's just cool. Like, maybe not in the middle of the, kitchen while you're wielding a chef's knife, cutting up vegetables and,
right.
Whatever. But totally cool. Hey, I just need to know, kind of
yeah,
thing.
like being upfront and honest instead of like rude and sneaky and like maniacal, just upfront and honest and saying, hey, I don't care if you guys are friends. That's perfectly fine with me. I just want to know that that's all that there is.
Right. And then about the time that we start to feel that there might be some troubles is we find out that Ben, he's an international copyright lawyer, which I don't know. I don't understand it, but it's cool. He gets this job in Europe where he has to move to Dublin for 6 months. And he brought it up, but when he brought it up, it was almost, he sounded almost like he was going to propose, but he didn't. And then he asked her, about him going.
He didn't even really ask her, though. He kind of just told her.
Well, he told her that was the thing, but let's be fair here. He told her, this is what my offer is, but you are more important.
Oh, that's true.
So if you don't want me to go, then I will stay, so.
I was thinking about the other thing, I guess.
Right.
They kind of like melted into each other.
Yeah. And then she told him it was okay. You could tell because, the way that they film it and all of that stuff, she wasn't real happy about it, but she pretended to be happy and told him to go and to have a great time and follow his dream and all this other stuff.
Well, no girl is going to be super excited to like ship her boyfriend off for 6 months in another country.
Right. Now, see, and that's where my questions come in.
Okay.
There is something wrong in that conversation. So in this day and age, it's just kind of a thing where everybody has heard that quote or seen it on a coffee mug or, on a stupid card somewhere or something where,
my boyfriend moved away for 6 months and all I got was this stupid coffee mug.
No. where they say the whole love is when you can be happy for somebody when they're happy, even if it doesn't involve you. Like, it's such a thing now that like, that's just common knowledge, and not that it's not true, but
right.
knowing that should not manipulate the way that you think things. Like,
Right.
so is he right for saying, if it makes you happy, I will stay here, but if it's okay, I will leave? Was it okay for him to do that? Should he have said, this is the opportunity that is presented to me, and this is what I'm going to do, and I need to know if you're on board with that, or if this is a deal breaker?
I always think that, talking it out and being completely honest about it is the best thing. If it were like me and you, I would come up to you and say, this is the offer. This is how I feel about it. I would really like your intake. And like, obviously, she's going to miss him, but she also knows that this is a huge opportunity for him. I just think if they were both like, he was clearly excited to go. I think if she would have been a little bit more honest and said, this is gonna suck,
right,
but I'm happy for you.
And that's the other side of what my question is. Is it okay that she told him to follow his dreams and that she loved that he was doing that when it wasn't something that she was happy about?
Well, I mean, she was happy, but I think she was happy, but I think the whole like sadness outweighed it. And I don't think she really like expressed that. So later on in the movie, that becomes a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is best, like me and you, I'm not good at always expressing the right things, and like you have helped me grow in that very much, to the point where now I just come up to you and say, hey, are you mad at me? Because I can't always tell.
Right.
Like, I think that being able to have that open and honest like conversation, I can 100% be happy for you and be sad that you're not going to be around, and I can tell you that.
Right. I think that these two need to me, it says that there was problems in the relationship, that they had to go out of their way to consider the other's feelings rather than just sitting down and talking about it.
Right.
Like, first off, he didn't talk to her about the situation. He gave her two choices.
Right.
The idea that she might have said, you know what, I'm not really liking my job here because they keep trying to push me into this position that I don't want to be in. And if you can help me find something over there, why don't I just move over there with you?
Yeah, that wasn't even an option or discussed.
Right. He gave her two choices and she had to pick one. And she picked one because it made him happy and it didn't make her happy. I feel like that the dialogue was too narrow, and that's important. In any kind of a big thing in a relationship, is that I feel like the dialogue needs to stay open.
Right.
And make sure that you're talking about those kind of things.
Well, in having a relationship as long as they did, as young as they did,
mm-hmm.
is very hard to maintain to begin with, because like you are in that stage and like your late teens to like all the way through your 20s, you are developing who you want to become. And they were not on the same page at all. And I think that if they would have had that conversation, then it could have made a bigger difference.
Right.
Because instead of, well, like you said, instead of saying, hey, would you be interested in coming with me? He just flat out said, I'm either staying here with you, which you know is going to cause resentment and all that stuff later on, or I'm leaving you here. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then he leaves. That's where things end up getting a little difficult for Chantry. She kind of starts acting weird.
I take it as like, you could tell she kind of had feelings for Wallace from the beginning, but she also, like, she found him attractive, but it wasn't more than that.
Right.
But as she got to know him and as she was alone and he was her comfort, she kept getting closer and closer and closer to him. And like, she kind of got into this space where she didn't know what she wanted.
Right.
Like, since Ben was gone, she wasn't really thinking about him, and they were having such a hard time communicating with each other, but Wallace was always there. And then once she started getting to that point where she was, tiptoeing that line, her head would snap back and be like, nope, I'm with Ben. This isn't like right or anything. But she didn't like try and really face it and figure it out.
Right. Someone could possibly think she's not being honest with herself.
Right.
And that she's trying to convince herself of one thing, over another for whatever reason. But at the same time, some of what's going on in all of this is also on Wallace.
Yeah.
For not saying anything. Of course, I mean, he's afraid that if he says something that, okay, so just wanted to let you know that I'm having some feelings here or whatever, that, that she's going to have resentment on him for hiding that from her because they were just supposed to be friends, like Alan and Wallace are walking, like they go out shopping or whatever because Alan's having his girlfriend move in.
And he had to get her a housewarming gift.
He had to get her a housewarming gift. What was it? Was it a buffalo?
No, he got that hanging lamp thing.
Oh. But yeah, he says it'd help if you stood up like a man and expressed your feelings. And, and Wallace says, since when does being a man involve expressing your feelings? Like, did I miss a memo? Like, being a man has always meant hiding your feelings. And that's kind of the way things have always been. At least in my growing up experience.
Yes.
My parents did a pretty good job of telling me that it's okay to say how you're feeling.
But it was the rest of society that...
Everywhere else, it was like, no, it's just not okay. But I mean, I also grew up in a time where, going and seeing a counselor or a therapist still had a little bit of stigma to it and all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean...
Well, and it doesn't help the state that you live in either.
Right. But Alan, points out that, you have an obligation here too.
Yes.
If you guys have an agreement that you're just going to be friends and what you're feeling is more than a feeling of friends, then like, instead of standing here and complaining at me about it, you have an obligation to say something. Like that is entirely on you. And I don't think he's wrong. Like, I mean, I think that Chantry could have been more honest with herself.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So with the Chantry part of that, like when you're in a relationship for so long, even if like deep down, it's not working, you're not happy, you're drifting apart, like part of you just wants to convince yourself that everything is okay. This is just gonna be for a little while and then I'll snap out of it. And you just keep kind of repeating that in your head. It's gonna be better. It's gonna get better. This is just for a short time. Maybe it's just me for right now. But like I've been on the other end of that too, where like a long time ago I had a friend that I started developing feelings for. And it's really hard to tell someone that because, like, them for so long. They're that friend that you just love to talk to, love to hang out with, and you have a very real chance of that going away.
Right.
And that's scary.
Yeah. By telling somebody that you have feelings for them and then things going back to normal, I don't know that that's always possible. I think it's very rare that it ever does go back to normal.
Right. Luckily mine was back to normal. But yeah, no, that doesn't happen often because then you like get into that mode where you're just, for the most part, you don't want to lead that person on. Like I had a friend that she knew this guy liked her and she would kind of like have him on the back burner. Like she would kind of feed into it and then pull away and then kind of feed into it and then pull away.
Yeah. 90% of the time I think it's going to end in a broken friendship, which is really sad.
Yeah. It's just like, I guess it could be getting better. Like I think it also depends on how strong that relationship is to begin with.
Right.
But I would like to hope that like people are able to say, hey, I don't feel that way, but I still value your friendship so much, and we might have to set some boundaries and really like talk to each other when things like this happen, but
right.
I don't want to lose that friendship.
Right. And I think normalizing that would be a step in kind of making that not such a divisive thing.
Well, and I mean, when you have, well, most of the time it's the opposite sex, but obviously it can be the same sex or whatever. When you have that person that knows so much about you, that's easy to talk to, of course, like it is a very real thing that, one person at least is going to develop feelings. Like when you get to be that secure with a person, that is what humans in general want. They want that security. They want that love.
Right. I think that most of the time the person who comes out with it is, if it's not reciprocated, I think the person who comes out with that feeling is generally the one who kind of makes the decision on whether that friendship continues.
Yeah. Because they could get way too embarrassed.
Like, yeah, it could be out of embarrassment. It could be out of, ire. They could just really be angry at the person because they don't reciprocate, which I'm going to take a moment right now. I'm going to step aside on the podcast for a second, and I am just going to say that for all of you out there that are parenting young men, please, please, please teach them that if a girl tells them that they are not interested, or whoever it is that they're pursuing is not interested, that's just what it is. America, stop telling your boys never give up. It's causing some problems. So anyway, yeah, stepping back into it, a little bit further on in the movie, it's really kind of cool. Adam Driver, or Alan rather, and Nicole, they throw a party. It's their engagement party, which that's really cool. But the best thing about their engagement party, and this is fucking brilliant, they stand up to thank everybody for coming to their engagement party and tell them, oh, by the way, we both hate long engagements. We're just gonna get married right now. And so like, that's like, dude,
is that your goal?
That is perfect. Like, it doesn't get any better than, you know what, we're having a party, let's just go ahead and get it over with. Like, right. That's just awesome. But while Nicole is getting ready, while Nicole and Alan are getting ready, Wallace is picked as the best man.
Yes.
And he goes to check on Nicole to make sure that things are going well. And she calls him in and she wants to talk to him about, how he feels about Chantry and all that. So she's talking to him about best case scenario, worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that, is that he tells her and then they're just happy forever. And then worst case scenario is that, she gets mad at him for wanting to put his junk in her trunk.
And anytime you say junk in your trunk, it's going to be the worst case scenario.
It's going to be the worst case scenario, yes. According to Daniel Radcliffe. I didn't say that. That was Daniel Radcliffe. But anyway,
you're okay with the phrase?
To each their own. So in this conversation, when he says that he just doesn't know because he doesn't know what the scenario is going to be, best case or worst. And then Nicole says something that was really cool. And she said, the one thing I like about getting married is that you get to stand up in front of everyone you care about and state for the record that you believe in the best case scenario. That is just cool. Because when you really boil it down, there's so much crap now that goes with the word marriage because of all of our political stuff and everything like that. The word marriage has kind of become a touchy subject. I mean, the whole, is marriage a religious institution, or is it a legal institution, or any of that stuff? I think that what's really important about getting married, whether you're doing it with a judge or a pastor, no matter who it is that officiates, what you're really doing is you're standing up in front of everybody you know and saying, this is who I choose.
Yeah, where and when and who's officiating, none of that matters.
Right.
That is 100% background nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, going back to what you said about marriage not really like coming with its own issues. I was married before, and I cannot tell you how many times anyone that was married that I talked to talked about how horrible it was. Like, they may have been joking. Some of them were joking. Some of them were not. But like, you always get somebody complaining about their marriage. And that kind of like plays back into that. If it's easy, you're not going to try.
Right.
Just because you get married does not mean you stop trying. That person wants to be with you. That person chose you. You need to choose them back. It is a team thing.
Well, I mean, sort of. Like, I mean, you're not obligated to choose somebody because they chose you.
Right.
But,
well, no, I mean, like, you guys chose each other.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you chose each other, then I mean, I think it's important to make sure that is being that is being maintained. No, maintain is the wrong word. That it's not being maintained, but it's being fed to grow.
Yes.
Because I mean, again, yeah, it goes back to that conversation that we had for that one. Otherwise, it's just too comfortable, and you don't get anything out of life. And there's nothing worse than not getting anything out of life and sharing nothing with somebody else.
Yeah. Well, and like, not only are you doing that, but you are showing your kids that you don't have to try. You don't have to like treat them nicely. Like,
oh God, don't even get us started on the whole generational thing. How much we teach our kids and all of that stuff about bad relationships and, you know, how it's
you know, I could
talk
for so long on that.
Yeah, parents, give your kids good examples of relationships, please. Like, just show them good people. Show them what a good relationship looks like, so that way they grow up knowing a better way. If
they don't see that, they're not going to be able to identify it.
Well, no. I mean, you're
like, there was a reason I was married and I'm not anymore.
We are a collection of our experiences, and that is about it. Right around this time in the movie where, you know, Nicole and Alan get married, and there's that whole best case, worst case scenario thing. They all go camping and they go swimming. None of them have bathing suits, of course. So you have 4 celebrity people running out into the ocean naked. Adam Driver has a set of pipes on him, talking about how cold the water is. They get out in the water, and then they come back and then have an awkward moment because, you know,
Wallace and Chantry, not all 4 of them.
Wallace and Chantry have a weird moment because they're naked. They can't find their clothes because Adam Driver ran off with their clothes. And, you know, I mean, it's just this whole thing. And she starts to get really salty.
Well, first she says something else, and then it turns salty.
Right. If you look, I'll look. And so, you know, they look at each other and all of that stuff. But then they go back and find that their clothes are stolen, and now they're stuck sitting around a fire naked.
And she has time to realize that she stepped way over that line.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of goes back to that home thing where they were having fun, and then O jumped out of the car into the ocean, and she got mad at him when he came back. Yes. I mean, it's kind of that same thing here where she started to explore, you know, something that made her happy. And then when she realized, you know, that she was making herself happy by going completely against what she was trying to convince herself, then she gets mad. And she's mad at herself, but that's not who she takes it out on. I mean, she is 100% taking it out on Wallace like it's his fault.
Oh,
you know, the whole, I mean, he's all, standing there with a branch full of leaves in front of his stuff, talking about how, I'm the one who's standing here wet with nothing but this branch of leaves to, protecting me not at all against the wind chill and my manhood, and you're sitting here telling me that I'm a bad person because when you made a joke about me being a walrus that I laughed. Like,
meanwhile, she is wrapped up in the only sleeping bag that they have.
So I mean, yeah, like, I mean, he nailed it on the head. Like, she was just kind of being an asshole, and I'm it's really cool that he was able to tell her that, like,
right,
despite the fact that like that he's in love with her and all of this stuff, he still calls her an asshole because she's being an asshole.
Well, and that goes back to what I said about how hard it would be to tell somebody your true feelings because you don't want to lose that person that you can be honest with.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't call you an asshole, but I tell you, hey, I don't like that.
Well, you'll tell me if I'm being an asshole. Like,
well,
I mean,
okay, when you're
that's...
picking on me, but like when I'm actually mad at you, I don't call you names.
Right. But I mean, okay, so after the whole swimming incident and all of that stuff, she gets mad at him and everything. Well, Chantry, I think, kind of in a way to try to convince herself that she's still in love with Ben and that's all she wants and all of that stuff. She gets on a plane, she runs to Dublin, and she winds up at this office where he's staying, or at this little, embassy sort of thing, where he's staying, and nobody answers the door. It's in the middle of the night, and then she turns around and sees two people walking up the steps, and it's her Ben with a different woman in his arm. Like, he's supporting this woman up the steps or whatever because they
both had been drinking. Yeah.
Right. And it's like
he drops her.
He drops the woman that he's with that whole thing. It seemed like the way that it was portrayed is that they didn't talk about that. Like, she just took what he said as face value, with him saying that, oh, well, it's just a friend from work. And right. We went to go do this because, I'm doing really well in whatever it is that we're doing with the Portuguese or whatever. And
she says, I wasn't accusing you of anything.
Right. They don't talk about it. They should have talked about it, but they don't. They don't really talk about it. But then things seem like they're about to change a little bit when she finds out, like the very next day, that they asked Ben to stay another 6 months in Dublin, and he had already agreed.
I think he tried to say he didn't he?
No, he agreed. He said that he was going to talk to her about it.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, and then that's when they have a conversation, and it's not real friendly.
No. Which is,
uh,
by this time, far too late for this conversation.
The overcompensation in their relationship shows something. Each one was wanting the other to make decisions for them so that they knew how to make it okay. And very rarely was there actually a conversation made about any of these big things and big changes in their lives.
I don't think Ben wanted her to make a decision for him. I think he wanted to do what he wanted to do, which is perfectly fine. Like, right. He technically, didn't... Yes, they had been dating for a long time, but they weren't married. They didn't have kids. They didn't have a house together. I think they rented together. So yeah, that is some, obligation towards her. But I don't know. I think he wanted to follow what he wanted to do. He just wanted to ask her, knowing who she is. She's not gonna try and hold him back. Right. He kind of wanted permission, but he already knew the answer.
I'm not going to say yes because, technically I have to have this conversation with this person, but I'm going to say yes because they're going to tell me it's okay.
Right. When you love someone, you don't want to hold them back, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And it doesn't mean that doesn't need to be discussed.
And I don't know. I also feel like that if somebody has a propensity to make a decision to make the other happy, then I feel like it's also, on the other person to say, don't make this decision because you're trying to make me happy.
Yeah, you don't know anybody like that.
I don't know anybody like that. But I mean, honestly, how many times have I told you, don't tell me what you want because you know that that'll make me happy. Don't tell me that that's what you want because you know that's what I want. Tell me what it is that would make you happy. What would complete you? Then I'll tell you what I want. And then we can compare notes.
I told you, if you plan on moving anywhere, you're taking me with you. I'll find something to do somewhere. I've had all kinds of weird jobs.
I am definitely not going anywhere. I'm perfectly fine right where I'm at.
You mean you don't want to pack up a house again
No,
and sell
not at all.
one and buy another?
Nope. I am a happy little millennial right here in my house.
Okay. Good, because I don't want to do that again either. It sucked.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely okay right where I am. But yeah, so I mean, these people are not having the conversations that they need to have when they need to have them, and then
they're not being honest when they finally do have them.
Right. Then, to make matters worse, here comes Wallace with his chest high and his wand tucked away somewhere in his pocket. Oh. And he's getting ready to go, and he's just going to go and tell Chantry how he feels about her in Dublin. He flies from Vancouver to Dublin and walks up the embassy steps and knocks on the door, and Ben answers the door.
Which, can I just say, by the way, how weird it was to see the shock on Wallace's face? I'm like, dude, who did you think was going to answer the door? Yeah, who did you think was going to answer the door? The person who you're there to see that doesn't live there? Right.
Right. So yeah, he knocks on the door, and Ben opens the door, and he's like, yeah, she's not here. And he asks, well, is she coming back? And then Ben just punches him in the face, which, whoa, man, fortitude. Yeah,
escalated
good job.
Quickly.
Flew all the way to Dublin just to say his piece to this girl, knowing that she's with her boyfriend. Finds out that she's not there, that she went back to Vancouver. And then he looks at his phone, and he's got a voicemail from her saying that she'd like to meet him at whatever diner or whatever. So he does his weird Daniel Radcliffe run to get on a plane to fly back to Vancouver, and gets to the diner to meet with her.
I don't think him flying to Dublin was okay.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was because of TV and movies and books and things, the way that they romanticize these stories, that is not, dude. Just no.
That is like dick in your face. I'm trying to take your girl.
Right. No, it's balls in your face.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that is.
I don't use that phrase, so I forget how it goes. Balls in your face.
Balls in your face. So it sounds romantic and bold and brave and all of that stuff, but it is uncool. Yeah, don't do that. I mean, I don't know how many people out there are looking to flying to Dublin to tell some weird girl that they're in love with her, but don't do that. That's a dick move.
Well, and I'm not saying be sneaky about it or anything like that. I'm just saying that is a conversation you need to have with that other person, and not trying to slime your way in.
And it needs to be had in an appropriate place.
Right.
Yeah. But at this diner, they start to have a conversation, and it sounds like Chantry's about ready to tell him that, that she needs to reprioritize her life and all of this other stuff. She's been offered a job in Taiwan doing, her animation thing in Taiwan and all of this other stuff. And then because Ben punched Wallace in the face, he's got a black eye, and she just won't let it go. He keeps trying to get past it and be like, that's not a big deal. I got jumped by ninjas. It's cool.
Not quite ninjas. He adds an R in there. When she was talking to him, it almost made it sound like she was going to choose him or talk to him about her feelings. Like
Right.
it kind of gave that feel to it.
Right. And then after she finds out he got punched in the face because he flew to Dublin, then she flips out on Wallace. And I mean, she calls him all kinds of a sleazeball and all this other stuff for, trying to break her and Ben up and all of this other stuff. And then he's trying to be a little bit more, centered in this. And he's like, no, I wasn't trying to break you up. And she's like, then what other purpose would it be? You said we were going to be friends. And he was like, we are friends. Like, how are we not friends? And she pretty well cuts it off right there. Like, I mean, she just stands up and says, have a nice life, and walks out the diner door.
Well, she was already like at all kinds of heightened emotions and everything. And like, she did not take the time to talk to him. Like, yes, they agreed to be friends. They shook on it and everything, like a business deal. Mm-hmm. But you can't help, like I said, you cannot help getting feelings for people sometimes when you're that close to them.
Right.
It happens.
Yeah. She finally admits how important Wallace is to her before she goes to Taiwan. I mean, it's like right before she leaves, she's got everything, ready to go, and she's just got a going away party going over on, Adam Driver's over at Alan and Nicole's. They're going to have this big party for her. And she finds out that Wallace has decided to go back to medical school, and Wallace decides that he's going to go ahead and go to that party. Everybody tells him that he should go, and he says that he's not going to, but then he decides to go ahead and do it when it's over. He goes after everybody's gone.
In true Wallace fashion.
Right. And so he shows up, and then the rest of the people leave, and he stands there and has a conversation with her. And the best part of that conversation, the best part of it is the fact that it was like all of their conversations had been before.
Right.
She had realized that she had kind of, that she had made a mistake, despite the fact that, yes, Wallace made a dumb decision by flying to Dublin. During that whole time, no matter how he felt, he was her friend.
Yes, he was friend first. And really the only person that he talked about his feelings to was Alan. Like, he tried to leave everybody else out of it and kind of bury those feelings to be the friend that he said he was going to be.
And Adam Driver didn't have to use the force to pull it out of him. But he sits there and has this conversation with her. He stands with her at the fridge and has a conversation with her just like they always had. And I mean, right there with the fridge magnets and all that stuff. And they just decide to kind of keep it the way it is. Then you end up finding out that he went to Taiwan to do his residency, for medical school. It's all of the things that should have been Chantry and Ben, but now was Chantry and Wallace. Who do you think this movie could really help?
Honestly, people in general.
Yeah.
Just be an honest person.
Yeah.
I am not saying go out and be a jerk. Like, mean thoughts, try and keep those in, but with your significant other, with your friends, with people, like, be honest about what you want.
Yeah. I really like this movie. Of course, like I said before, you add a Adam Driver and a Daniel Radcliffe as a kicker, I'm gonna pretty well be into that movie. Because
man crush on Adam Driver.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of any more things that John Oliver said about him at the moment, but
I was just gonna say you're gonna have to fight him. Something about like well, no, you said the stepping on my neck.
Yeah, step on my throat, you very large man. You rudely large man. Yeah.
They put all of those on a coffee mug. Maybe I should get that for you.
I'd drink out of it. Yeah. So yeah. No, it's a good movie. I'm glad that we got to take a look at this one. If you have any movie suggestions or have a story of a movie that moved you, let me know on the Facebook group, or you can send an email to contact@movie-rx.com. And until then, see you at the next checkup.